kind of go like that one. Thank you.
She knows better.
Did you print out the letter?
Yes, I did.
You have a seat.
I don't remember.
Sit on the end.
All right.
A little, oh, I feel heat.
Is he?
How many more people do we expect?
Hard to say. Two are online. A couple are down there. Oh, one's down there. The other one went out the door. I don't know where she went.
Okay. Is somebody manning things here?
Jenna is, I think.
Okay, Jenna,
Oh, Jenna sat
Jenna
down.
said she wanted to sit out there.
All right.
are you manning this machine here?
I don't need to,
Oh, okay.
but yes, I am technically in charge.
How are you?
I guess. But you can sit there, you can sit there. Yeah, for sure.
Here she is. She's back.
Yeah, I have it. I have
Do you
it on
have
my,
a
yeah,
copy?
it's better on my.
All right.
Give you a copy, Jackie? Do you need a copy of the letter?
I think we have a quorum. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Does it have to be voting members?
But we can appoint an associate to be a voting member for the purposes of this one.
Oh, great, okay.
Oh, and we have Karen Panett. So I think we're all set.
Yeah, we should avoid that whenever possible.
Yes. All right.
Avoid associate members being,
The only reason being, if something is discussed tonight and then it gets carried on to the other night, a regular member couldn't vote on it, only the associate who was substituting that time.
Interesting.
You keep saying that. and Every time you ask Mark, they say no. I don't know.
This is probably the only second time I said it, but I think Mark is wrong on that. I don't care.
That's possible.
I don't care who he is.
All right. Anyway, Karen Karen Herrick was going to come too.
this is
Come on in.
Council on Aging.
Come on in.
Come on up.
Come on up. All right, I think we can convene the meeting. It is 6:33 by this very old-looking clock, which old but reliable, I trust. I'll call the roll. Debbie Small? Not here. Joan Coco?
Yeah.
Karen Fotino?
See ya.
No? Okay. Oops. Karen Panett?
Here.
Thank you. Whoops. Marilyn Chapley here. Nancy Zimlack.
Here.
John Parsons.
Yeah.
Sally Hoyt.
I don't see her either.
No, she asked for the Zoom link, so maybe she'll join us. Sandy Schaefer.
I don't see her either.
Oh, she was
Oh, she's sick.
sick.
She's sick. That's too bad.
Right.
Rosemary Benedetto.
Here.
Thank you. Beverly Cuneo.
Yeah.
There she is. Thank you. Jolene Eck. Karen Janowski.
Here.
And Nancy Tuardos.
Here.
Am I pronouncing that correctly?
You are. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we have among the full members, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5 full members. So we will need to appoint someone. It could be anyone who would like to be a full member, a voting member tonight.
I would like to.
All right, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so is member for the evening. The way it's worked in past meetings is sometimes a full member shows up and then we pass it back. Okay. All right, thank you. All right, so we have a working quorum. Bless you. First thing is approval of the September minutes. Did everyone read the September minutes?
Yes.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve them?
So moved.
Second?
I second.
But just of the members. Joan Coco,
Yes.
Karen Panett,
Yes.
Marilyn Shapley, yes. Nancy Zimlack,
Yes.
John Parsons,
Yes.
and Karen Janowski.
Yes.
Okay, they are approved,
Can I just say one thing?
of course.
I was crazy with these minutes because I kept screwing it up. And so I'd have to take it back, fix it, and reformat it. So I said to Jenna and Marilyn, I am giving my notice tonight for next June. So people get ready because next June, we want a new secretary. This will be year 2.
I did it for 4 years.
That's crazy.
That's why I ran for this position, so I wouldn't have to do that one anymore. All right, thank you. Select Board Liaison update. Mark is not able to be here tonight. so-
Did you see that Sally Hoyt is here?
Oh, hi, Sally.
Hi, can you hear?
Okay, thank you. Sally Hoyt has arrived, so she will take the other full member position tonight. Great, thank you.
Right.
All right.
Can you hear my voice?
Yes, we
Yes.
can.
Wonderful. I do want to thank and our friend Chairman for doing such a magnificent job researching the Walgreens possibility. And I really think she did a splendid job, and I certainly agree with her.
Fabulous, Sally. We're going to be spending quite a bit of time talking about that in a little bit, but we're really glad to have you here with your opinion.
Okay.
All right. Select Board Liaison update. That would fall to you since Mark can't.
What about
Karen's here.
Oh, Karen. But,
So I'm your liaison as well. You have 2 liaisons.
right.
I don't have a big update tonight. I don't even have a full agenda, so just keep on going.
Okay, so we don't have a select board update tonight. How about a recalc liaison? That would be you, John.
I'll try to keep it brief because we've got a long meeting tonight and recal's meeting was very long. We discussed a whole lot of things. We started with the RFP that was put out originally for temporary space. We got one response, the RSP, or a second RFP was put out for a purchase. We had one response on that. We've been looking down the road, but suddenly, we had been looking down the road, but suddenly we had a quicker option to be considered, so that's kind of thrown everything into a little bit of a muddle. Another thing we did, we have viewed a video that had been prepared by a communication committee. That video was shown at the Lunch and Learn at last Thursday at the Pleasant Street Center. Next thing we talked about was surveys. We were told the survey response is good. There were 20,000 postcards sent out. 1,053 were received as of the time that report was delivered. We've been told that by people who do these type of surveys that an 8% response is considered good. Surprise is such a low. We need at least 500 more to reach even that 8% figure. UMass has stated firmly that the results will not be available until mid or late November. We would love to have them before town meeting, and we are trying to put a little pressure on UMass to get those results sooner. We also wanted to point out that the process is a long way off. Anything that happens first goes to select board, then it goes to town meeting, then it goes to the voters. If it is approved, then it's 18 months to 2 years after that. So even though everybody thinks Walgreens might be a quick fix, it's still a long way down the road. There was a long article in the Chronicle about how we voted to continue on with the Pleasant Street Center. We basically really voted to consider to pursue that option, but keeping in mind that there are still plenty of options still available out there. And one of the last things we did was we had a copy of a draft letter to submit to town meeting, and that's being refined and worked on.
Thank you. You did say the vote was to continue with the Pleasant Street Center. Did you mean to continue with the Walgreens?
We consider with the Walgreens
Thank you.
Center.
That's what I
said that
thought.
wrong.
No problem. And Jackie Behenna, I realize I didn't call your name. I see you back there and I realize you. Thank you. And we'll get a steady state on screen. Okay, thank you very much. Any questions about the recalc update?
I do.
Yes.
John, did you go to some of those site visits?
Did I
I
go
know
to
there
the-
were
some of the site visits, I understand, or should I wait?
Yes, I did.
It's fine, it's fine.
Yeah, I think a lot of people in this room did.
So all 16? I mean, there were many site visits.
They divvied them up.
You're talking about, I thought you, when you started, I thought you were talking about the Walgreens site visit.
Oh, I'm sorry, I meant the recalc.
Yeah, we had a list of 21. I'm not sure why it only happened 16. I guess some people weren't able to get to all of them, but we did do 16. But, I did 3 and other people did 2 or 3.
What did recalc think about? What were there some summaries about what you gained from those site visits? Summaries of information?
In my personal opinion, the info probably more valuable to elder services than it really was the recalc.
Interesting.
The people who went to Lexington, that was valuable because Lexington is a multi-use center and it wasn't that long ago it was converted that way. So that gave us one of the few looks that we had at that type of a center. I went down to Situate because Situate is the newest one in the state. And it was just some good input to see what they went through. Surprising enough, one of the questions that we had on the form was, what's the one expense that you never expected to have that you now have? And their answer was an assistant chef. So
Yeah.
that was really a surprise.
Thank you.
Okay.
I did ask John Sasso and John O'Neill about 2 weeks ago, give or take a few days, if there was a summary and if there was an updated version of the master spreadsheet where they stored it. And the answer I got was, I got the copy of the spreadsheet again, which had been shared with the council a while ago. I don't think it had changed, but he sent it to me again. And he said at that point, there was no summary write-up that he was aware of. So to the best of my knowledge, that synthesis and here's what we learned
Right.
has not been written down.
Marilyn,
Yes,
that UMass is not gonna put one out?
they didn't do this, they did not go to the 20 or 16 different,
Did they put out the list for the 16?
no,
Oh, it wasn't their list.
no, correct me if I'm wrong.
What was the question, Joe?
I wanted to know if UMass was putting out a summary of what everybody saw. But she said I thought it was their list. It wasn't their list?
It was recalc.
Yeah, it was recalc's list and Kevin Bowmiller at one point sent out everything, but it was, you had to read each one individually. There was no summary.
There is a master spreadsheet, which I believe got, in fact, I know I sent it out to everyone quite a while ago. And I got it again a few weeks ago, but I don't believe it's any different from what I had received earlier because I got it with, I believe you've already got this. So I think it's the same.
I would appreciate it if you sent it out again.
Again.
I don't know if anybody
I
else.
was gonna ask her again.
All right, I will send it out again, happily.
And with a few exceptions, most of the sites we're visiting were peer communities.
Okay.
But ones like Situate, because it was brand new, Lexington, was the other, but in general, they were peer communities.
Okay. I just wondered where the list came from.
I forget who developed it, but I was happy with the list. I thought it was a very good list.
Okay.
In my experience from watching it was a pretty spontaneous process. People said, oh, they say you got to go to Danvers, so we put Danvers on the list. And you got to go to Linfield because everyone loves Linfield. And it kind of,
Well, part of it too, I think it was back in 2017 when UMass had a list of peer communities. A lot of them were taken right off of that list.
that could be.
Because those peer communities are still peer communities to us.
Okay. All right, Elder Services report. Chris, hi.
All right.
And this is in everyone's packet.
Yeah, the last 2 pages, you can see the October report. As you can see, highlights, we had a flu clinic on September 21st. It went really well. Ice cream social with Senator Lewis on September 28th. That was really a really good event too. Well attended. Our first Lunch and Learn was on September 29th, and that was a fantastic event. Everyone really did seem to enjoy it, and there seemed to be a good discussion and good information that was shared. So we were really happy with the first Lunch and Learn. Coming up in October, we have the Newport Playhouse trip on October 11th. We have the Reading Police Department Harrow's Chicken Supper on October 12th, Wednesday, October 12th. That is already filled, and we are well into a waiting list, so we're excited about that. We have the Blue Cross Blue Shield Medicare Talk, Moving Pizza California Caro, Halloween themed party on October 27th, and the October birthday lunch on October 13th. As you can see from the numbers are looking, we're overall, if you look on page 2, if you look total people served, we're still on an upward trajectory, which is a good thing. So we increased from September, so we increased from August. So it was a pretty good month in September there. So so we're excited that people are coming into the center. Numbers are still increasing, and we were really trying to fill the calendar at the Pleasant Street Center.
I'm doing a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you. Did I hear word that the Pleasantries actually was in the newspaper?
Yes.
Yes.
It was in the Reading Post.
Thank you.
They, yeah. It was cool.
No, we worked really hard on the Pleasantries. We were trying to really, make it look, change the look of it. We increased the font. We increased it from 7 to 12. I'm trying to tweak it a little bit more, just to try to reach ADA standards a little bit. It's going to be a little bit challenging to hit that like 14 font. So we're on our way. So I'm excited about that. We also played with the contrast of the newsletter a little bit, just so people can see it and view it. So we have got quite a bit good feedback from that. So we're excited about that. So I'm trying to tweak things for the better. So
Thank you. And if I understand the numbers right on people served, it's 300 in September, there were 383 individual people, but in total they came 1,471 times.
correct.
So on average,
Yep.
it's just an average, people are coming
So
almost
we're
somewhere
getting-
between around 3.5 times a month. Is that what this means?
what's that? I'm sorry.
I think on average, I'm just doing the math badly in my head, I'm sure. It means people on average are coming about 3.5 times. a
Yeah.
month.
Yeah, these numbers, statistics may show one person walking in, but a couple people who do regular exercise. We're trying really hard to ramp back up to pre-pandemic levels, and we're getting there pretty quickly.
Actually, it's closer to 4 times.
So, yeah, so, we can't tell someone not to come. So, it's good once they get in the center. The numbers are looking good. And then, like I said, we're trying to get to pre-pandemic numbers here pretty quickly. So we're trying to ramp up.
What are those numbers pre-COVID?
I don't have those on me. I know Nancy and I kind of quickly took a brief look at them a week or two ago. I can always get them to you. I can always
When
I'm off.
how off we are?
They were actually
actually
pretty.
they weren't that bad,
Yeah.
especially for the total number of participants. The 383 it wasn't far off, which I was really excited about.
It was maybe like 200.
I think it was less than that. It was closer to only like 100 off total, which meant we're getting, we're for the 383 number, we're pretty close. We didn't really lose. It seems like we didn't really lose that many through people from the pandemic, which is, in some ways we're getting that number right back up. And I can't recall the 1471 where we would have been at. It was hard because I was trying to do like a 5 or 6 month breakdown rather than just a month breakdown when we were looking at it. But we're not too far off. And I think give it a handful of months, I think we should be able to get back up there. So at least when you compare like December to December, November to November time. So you're welcome. Any other questions?
And just one of the things I advise people to keep in mind when we start looking at these numbers is that especially as we get back to pre-pandemic levels, they've got a natural sort of cap, which is the space that's available in the Pleasant Street Center. So if you might want to say, oh, only 500 or whatever, well, that might be the capacity. It might not be
Yeah.
that there might not have been more. It's just, but it's full. I mean, that's great news that we're getting back to it.
Yeah, I mean, we still have a little bit of space, but we're quickly, and you're correct about that. You know, at some point we will probably hit that max. You know, once we start, we're in the middle of currently examining what times, days we can throw some programming in, and we plan to throw programming in. So, yeah, thank you.
Great, thank you.
Mhm.
Any more questions? Are we keeping, and I know it was short staffed, particularly it's challenging list for the Harrows, but are there any instances where the rooms are filling up on others and we're having to say we're capacity? And if so, are we keeping, I don't care about the names, I just want to know like the numbers, you know,
Yeah.
a half dozen
You
couldn't
know,
get
the
in.
best, I don't know those statistics right offhand. We always try to make space. Since we have space, we're trying to, whatever programs we currently have, we're trying to make sure, you know, if there's another room, like Bridge right now takes up 2 rooms on Friday mornings, and the number keeps increasing on Friday mornings. So they're in the lounge and they're in the kitchen, 2 tables each. And the nice thing is there's enough space to throw another one, because I keep getting calls. You know, I got an email from a couple that used to play earlier this summer and they want to come back. So, you know, so I don't know that statistics right offhand.
Even if you could keep just anecdotal notes when you have a chance of,
Yeah,
this is growing and
Yeah.
we're having to expand into other rooms and find space. It just
Yep.
would be useful to know the dynamic.
yeah, that's not a problem at all.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
I want to put a thought out to you. When I chatted with Senator Lewis, there was a couple of things that I found out in our conversation. One being that he brought in the ice cream to be served, and yet it sounded like at other centers, they provided it, the ice cream. So maybe we should look into that for the future. And he also said that the state sends back money to every city and town, which means Reading got money for elder services. Anybody know about that? How much we got, where it went, who oversees it, if it's been spent? Those were 2 parts of my conversation with Senator Lewis.
We're not, at the time, Rosemary, we're not aware, but it's something we can check into. I do know, I remember the conversation with the ice cream, although I do like the fact that he brings it and pays for it. So I will kind of like that. And he wanted to do that. And the good thing is he left the leftover, so we can use it for another event, which is nice. But second to the other question you had, and we can report back to you on that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Did you have a question? Oh, all set? All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Great report and great job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So,
All right, elders, maybe you're still up. Elder services request for funding.
all right. First of all, I want to say thank you. I think it was particularly Rosemary, you guys increased last month, was this month to $800. We appreciate that. So I do want to say thank you. And that's helping because we're doing moving the pizza, birthday lunch. We brought California Carl back for a Halloween themed party. So what we're kind of thinking is for November, the same thing. We have planning 3 events, the birthday lunch, the birthday celebration, and we're going to we're in the middle of putting together a Thanksgiving themed something right before Thanksgiving or maybe right after, some kind of gathering. So if possible, we'd like to request another $800 for November. We're excited to have, 3 events.
What's this birthday lunch? What's the celebration? Is it different from lunch?
For November?
Yeah.
November, we're thinking about doing a birthday lunch. pizza and a movie. And then we would like to host some sort of Thanksgiving themed gathering for just Thanksgiving.
The pizza and the movie is separate from the.
Correct.
Okay, that's not,
All three separate events.
okay. I got you now. Yeah, do we have a-
We, if, the nice thing is we understand and there may be a lot of folks out there that may not have family to go to. And if we can host an event to bring them into our family, we would like to do it. So.
Great. In the past, we used to, years ago, get Thanksgiving lunches. Hi, Fidel. He brought food. We used to deliver lunch, Thanksgiving dinners to a lot of this particularly frail.
Yeah,
And that ended up being something that's pretty much gotten reduced, I think, to a small number. And I think Carrie organizes and Elise organized making deliveries to those people because there were also people on the list that kind of got the sense that maybe they didn't really need it so much. And so is that still the plan? That
I know Carrie, Elise, and myself, we've discussed it. I know they told me about it. We haven't had time to actually explore it yet.
Okay.
We're still a couple months away, which does give us a little bit of time, but it is on our list to explore and hopefully do. We have Thanksgiving, we have Christmas coming up, so we want to keep those two things in mind,
Okay.
especially for meals and
Remember
stuff.
it being Christmas or Thanksgiving?
It was both. No, it was Christmas and Easter.
Was it Christmas and Easter?
It seems to be Christmas was way reduced, but not so much Thanksgiving.
Right, Thanksgiving was the one that was over. Right, no, 'cause Thanksgiving was the drive
Drive up by,
country at the golf club or whatever.
Christmas was handout.
Thanksgiving was the one with Haggerty and
Right.
piece of paper.
Yeah, so,
But we used to drop off, Christmas, we used to deliver.
Right.
We used to deliver. But they stopped, I think wasn't for Christmas, they decided that too many people were around. They didn't want to do
Yeah,
that.
I remember it that way too, Joe.
Yeah,
The Christmas list went down to about 5 or 6 people.
Right.
5 or 6.
right, and they were just, Elise and Carrie would just deliver the few they had to deliver.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, oh, yes, they did.
I like to explore it, keep the option open, maybe maybe at a different time, maybe shift the week, but yeah, TBD on that one.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, do we have a motion from anyone for $800? I guess this would be
I
for.
make a
Well,
motion.
I have a thought.
All right,
Because of the bird flu, turkeys are going to be very expensive. Will he have enough money for a turkey dinner for the people attending the center and/or people who are going to receive turkey dinners at home?
good point.
Good point.
If we run out of funding, we could always tap into our normal programming and event budget.
Yeah. So if we do run out of funding, we can dip into our normal funding extra.
Or else get it,
So,
add on.
or we can come back and request a little bit more. I'd rather stay at the 800 until we actually have a better figure, just to be a little bit more responsible. I don't want to just throw out a number
Appreciate it.
and not have it be right. So I'd like to, it's a good, I'm glad you brought that up, Rosemary. Thank you.
Welcome.
Let us, what I'd like to do is stick with the 800. And then we can see where we're at with that. And if we either need to come back or dip into our other funding, we can. So I prefer to go that avenue.
Want me to put it out again? Vote I vote for $800.
From Urban,
Up to 800 or 800?
up to.
Up to 800?
He wants 800, right?
But we usually phrase it up to, just in case he doesn't need that much.
Up to $800.
He's not
Well,
obligated.
I second it, so I'm not used to being pushed.
All right, do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Roll call. All right. Joan Coco,
Yes.
Karen Panett,
Yes.
Marilyn Shapley, yes. Nancy Zimlack,
Yes.
John Parsons.
Yes.
Sally Hoyt,
Yes.
and I got everyone? I think I got all the full members. Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Yep. 6. Keep checking, make sure we've got the quorum. Okay, financial report. Jenna, are you the one who does this or?
Yes, I run the financial reports, but everything that Chris reported for the activities that took place in October,
Huh?
or sorry, September rather, should be updated and reflected on that report. Those are the only things that we did.
Okay, did anyone have any questions about it?
I'm just curious, between recalc and this, I get so many emails, I somehow missed the financial reports. When was the last time anything was taken out of Schroeder?
Good question.
I have the reports right in front of me. Just have to find it.
What did you just ask? When's the last time what?
Anything was taken out of the Schroeder account?
Oh,
That's one of the funds that's set up. Those funds are spent at the direction of Elder Services, not the Council on Aging.
Actually, we have the ability to do it, but they also do, is my understanding.
Schroeder more outreach, right? To my knowledge, it's not more like recreational programming.
I'd have to reread the trust.
Yeah, I would too. But it is the one, my understanding is that Elder Services can draw on directly. You don't need our permission.
Correct.
Okay,
And I one time was told pretty much anybody in Elder Services can.
And Mark confirmed that a few meetings ago.
Pardon me?
Mark confirmed that a few meetings ago.
Okay.
so are you saying of the 3 trusts, each trust is designated for certain expenses?
Yes,
You can't just draw from them whenever you want? It has to cover a certain expense?
Yes.
So do we have a listing of the 3 different trusts and a breakdown of what they cover differently?
keeps going back to that notebook that we haven't yet had a chance to regenerate that used to, all of this is available online. And we've talked about these quite a few times, but we used to all receive this big binder that the town used to provide that had summaries of those separate funds. And we keep talking about it, Jen. I know there's different staff and outdated materials and moving pieces. Do we have someone who volunteered to help sort that out?
Well, Joan and I met to take a look at the existing reports, the 26 pages or however.
Look at, it had nothing to do with what each fund covered though.
Right, right. It was, we were just looking at ways to kind of, yeah, ways to streamline the information. But I did want to say, and I will go back and see if I can find the exact recording. But in 21, we had a presentation by Beth Kleppis.
Yes, she's the treasurer.
And she did a wonderful presentation on the trusts, what they were used for, and I'll see if I can find that. And then people can go to RCTV and watch that. And if anybody wants to write up a summary, that would be great.
And actually, I was also going to ask, I have on my note, Joan, I know you were going to follow up, but it sounds like the two of you met on a mini report that would focus on interest and expenditures and not have all these other lines.
I'm still in the process.
Okay, excellent. Okay, well, it was noted and we appreciate it. All right, any more discussion of the financial report? Okay, new business. Did you find your answer?
Yes.
Okay. New business. Our challenge tonight is to provide official Council on Aging feedback to Recalc regarding our thoughts on the former Walgreens site. Let me preface this with, I think, a pitfall that I'm sure I'm guilty of, and I know some others have inadvertently fallen into as well, as sometimes we speak, like I was asked at the last Recalc meeting, why are you here? I said, I was there as, they did, they asked me right out. And I said, I was here as a concerned citizen because I wasn't there representing the Council on Aging opinion. I have more than enough of my own and they hear from me all the time. it's really important that all of us be careful when we're sharing our opinions, that just make it clear. You're entitled to your personal opinions and you should express them. But you should also, because people are aware we're on the Council on Aging, and it's really easy for people to come to the incorrect conclusion that because it's coming out of one of our mouths, that it's the Council on Aging opinion. And so I just caution everyone to be careful about it, because conversations can get pretty heated. We can make pretty strong statements that doesn't mean we don't mean them when we say them, but it may not be an official council opinion that might be broader. It might be narrower. It could go either way. So I just want to throw that caution out, because I know I say things all the time, and I always try to say to people, you know, it's my opinion, but to make sure they hear you, because it's tempting to say Council on Aging. I'm probably most vulnerable because I'm the Council on Aging chair. So if it's coming out of my mouth, I think you all agreed with me. You didn't. Not yet. Anyway. All right. A little background. One is we've all been seeing the Walgreens site. I think probably everyone here has, pretty much everyone, or most everyone, has had a chance to see this, which is.
Some of the associates have it.
Okay, maybe we can get another tour scheduled for some of the people who haven't seen it yet. I think that would be really helpful. In addition, a subgroup was formed by the Recalc group. And I don't know exactly what their mission was, but among the other things, they were putting together sort of square footage guesstimates. And I know the Pleasant Street Center helped participate in this and several others, of what they thought the floor space ought to include over there. And anyone who knows this better than me, please tell me I'm wrong, because I haven't been as involved in that, because they were meeting during the day quite often. I couldn't go. It led to a spreadsheet, and it included some information, which goes back to what I was saying before Nancy shared, that was really a summary, and correct me if I'm wrong, of Newton feasibility study numbers, and it got labeled Council on Aging opinion, and it's not. And so
Yeah, the top part
Right.
were Council on Aging comments, and it said that.
Right.
But the rooms and the square footage were
Yeah.
taken directly from the Newton feasibility study.
And we explained this to the Recalc committee, and they said, okay, we get it, but when will we have your numbers? So that was part of what led to, okay, we need to give them feedback. We also, there's another piece. Meantime, actually, I would say, and this is a moving target, there was this lunch and learn last week where a number of other options were explained to those who were able to go to that. And Karen sent me all the PowerPoint from it. Thank you. And I sent it around to the whole council. But we haven't heard the presentation, which would be nice to be able to actually hear it, because just looking at the slides, it's easy to infer.
I heard from a couple of people that were there.
Okay, great. But that's another source of input. So I'm saying all this just because there are lots of reactions that people are having, and what we're did with the draft letter that you received, and I'm going to walk through it all because not everyone has seen the draft letter. Our feedback on where things stand with the former Walgreens site evaluation process. And what I'd like to do, I think, is go through that letter. Is it possible to put it up on the screen and share it, Jenna?
I don't think Jenna has.
Oh, Jenna hasn't got it?
No.
All right, I'll read.
Does anybody else need a copy? I have some paper copies here. Does everybody?
Everyone's got a copy?
I'll take one if you have an extra.
Okay.
And what we did last meeting,
Pages of one.
Oh, okay. You want one? Okay.
I got rid of mine.
Oh,
I was willing to get rid of mine. Thank you, thank you.
if you recall, in our last meeting, we aired a lot of conversation about our opinions. We had a lot of discussion, and then we agreed to form an informal subgroup below quorum. There were 4 of us. And our charge was to synthesize it and put it into a draft letter. So this letter represents our summary, mostly of what we talked about at that meeting, which was 3 weeks ago, I think. This does not yet include, and wouldn't if we're going to act on it tonight, but because of the timing, additional thoughts you might have, for example, because of the lunch and learn. I mean, I think that raised lots of interesting things, or any other experience you've had in evaluating it are not in this letter. It's a moving process, but we're talking about process in this. And I think our first reaction in this was that we're really not in a position to tell anyone what square footage is needed for anything. This is, and we'll get to that in this, this really is something that calls for experts in universal design, experts in population projections. This is building on, if we go with it, for a long time, and it better have enough space for what we're going to need X many years out and so forth. Instead, what we tried to do is to, and my thank you to everyone who helped with this, Rosemarie and Karen, really appreciate it. And I really appreciate the first draft. Hope you don't mind that we continued to massage it into its current state, but we used a great deal of what we put together in the first pass. And this is meant to be the summary. What I'd like to do is to start with the bottom of the first page and talk about the specific things that we had concerns about. And then I'll come back up to the top of it, which is our conclusions of what we'd like to offer to recalc at this point. So if you look at the bottom of the first page, there are some clear benefits to this site, including a larger footprint and an in-town location. But we also have some concerns about the suitability of the site, which are listed below. Jenna, you're looking lost. Is it not there?
Oh, I just asked him where we were.
Okay.
Got it, thank you.
Okay. First one is accessibility. Accessibility is of key importance to the Council on Aging, and we feel that the Walgreens site needs further study. Prior to purchase of the building, it will be very important for the town to ensure that the building will be fully accessible. When reviewing the draft Walgreens layout, we are concerned that the square footage stated for rooms may actually be less when full accessibility is factored in. The town must confirm that both accessibility and square footage for program space can be maintained. And when we met with the architect, for example, we were talking about width of hallways and did you need to have 2 wheelchairs? And they explained, no, you can have cutouts. So it only has to be one, but the cutout isn't on the blueprint. It might be little things, it might be big, we just don't know. But we could see things right out of the gate that were like, how's that gonna work? So anyway, that's where that came from. Second point, renovation. After participating in a tour of Walgreens, it became very clear that extensive interior improvement will need to occur in order to make the space accessible, provide sufficient storage space, and provide creative arrangement of space to include both permanent rooms as well as rooms that will expand to manage larger events. The senior community must receive assurance from the town that the problems with acoustics, poles in the middle of the floor, difficult to navigate stairs, lack of natural light in windows, non-glare flooring to protect our clients from falling. We should have an and in there, and non-glare. Flooring to protect our clients from falling must be fully addressed. The renovation must be done with high quality materials to accomplish this goal. There are other issues that need to be confirmed prior to the purchase of the former Walgreens to ensure that a sufficient budget is planned to take into account all of these factors. Otherwise, we may find ourselves with technically more square footage, but unusable space for expanded programs and services. So we're asking for more study that's particularly ADA oriented. Parking. The parking situation is very unclear behind the former Walgreens. Although a second drawing includes a reconfiguration of the parking lot for 30 spaces, it must be noted that this will impact the nearby businesses, including the police station. And I can't remember if we've had a new drawing since we wrote this. It's perhaps, again, this is a moving target. The Pleasant Street Center currently has available 26 spaces behind the building, 2 handicap spaces, 1 space for delivery, and an additional 6 spaces across the street from the center. All of these spaces are identified. Are identified with a sign that says senior center parking only from 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. Before any decision is made on the purchase of the former Walgreens building, parking will need to be agreed upon by the town. This will become a larger issue as the population over the age 60 in Reading continues to grow. As we look to improve our current space, a reduction in parking spots would be a step backward. Long-term needs and solution. In addition, space to expand is a necessary requirement as the elder population is growing. Projections indicate that by the end of the decade, at least 30% of Reading's population 60 years old or older. It is unclear at this point if the town considers this building temporary, in parentheses 5 years, or more long-term permanent space for a senior center. The data is clear on the steady growth in the population of older adults. As the size of our clientele grows, we'll have to expand our programming to continue to meet their needs. Currently, we have 1,400 participants, and that includes, I believe, all the people who are on the list, as well as the people who are getting social services and nursing services. In over 20 monthly programs, and we are seeing our numbers increase steadily as we recover from COVID. Any new space should be able to accommodate the necessary program expansion for at least the next 10 years, perhaps much longer, depending upon the town's assumptions about the life of the building. The Pleasant Street Center maintains a database with daily usage and scheduled programs that can be accessed for further information to determine specific program needs and projected usage. Needs assessment. We do understand that former Walgreens is an unexpected development, and it's important to understand the possibilities. We also understand the time and effort everyone has put into this task to identify best practices and program needs. The data that has been collected gives us a lot of information that must be thoroughly analyzed to help us determine the best course of action in terms of location, accessibility, and program needs. The site visit data, focus group feedback, and the survey results are integral in understanding the big picture of what is needed now and for the long term. We know, although assessing location is important, it is not the only requirement for determining the best fit for a new senior center. The Council on Aging believes, I'm losing my voice here, I may make you read if you can, that the original calendar developed by Recalc allows the town to conduct a rigorous feasibility study, which will take all these factors into account while providing the town with a well-researched strategy upon which we can move forward. We also understand that there may be a time constraint with the purchase of the former Walgreens building and the completion of Recalc's timeline, but the results of the feasibility study and survey are critical to providing both our teams with the true data to make sound decisions. Before I go back to our recommendations, could I just ask, does anyone have issue with our characterization of any of these points? No?
In
Okay.
what sense?
Would you reword it? Are we saying something inaccurate?
That's a good question, but I think it'll be part of the discussion itself, that as a result of you reading the letter, that we'll have a conversation.
Okay. I am losing my voice. Would you mind reading, Nancy?
Okay. So, reading recommendation.
No, from the top. Start
Oh.
with thank you down through feasibility.
The very top of the letter, we begin by saying thank you for seeking input from the Council on Aging concerning the purchase and renovation of the former Walgreens property as a possible site for a new senior center. There are some clear benefits for use of this space, although we have some hesitations around the suitability of the site as well. It is an exciting time for the 60-plus population of Reading to be moving ahead to the next phase of implementing a plan for a new senior center The town of Reading has conducted a number of studies and generated reports during the past 5 years that have documented the need for a new senior center. The 60-plus community has outgrown the existing building on Pleasant Street. The Council on Aging supports the search for a building that will provide full accessibility and the space needed to meet the needs of the population we currently serve and expect to serve as the population ages. The primary reasons we are looking for a new space for the Reading Senior Center are lack of accessibility and the desire for you do a better job than me. The desire for additional space to meet the needs of the population we currently serve and anticipate to serve. So, recommendations for next steps. Number 1, research. Complete the UMass and consider its recommendations before making decisions. I can't say this word.
Inclusivity.
Thank you. Engage an expert in the field of universal design to advise the Council on Aging, the Recalc Committee, the Select Board, and other decision makers in this process about the design principles that are likely to make or break a new senior center's ability to ensure the building's infrastructure will be accessible to all, regardless of age, ability, and other demographics. Our current senior center, in spite of what were undoubtedly sincere efforts on the part of well-meaning Reading residents and town leaders who saw the Reading Fire Station as a great opportunity, is not an inclusive environment. Please let's consult an expert to help us avoid making the same mistakes again. 3, feasibility. Conduct a feasibility study of any site before making a decision.
Thank you. And with that, we open it to discussion. Any concerns people have about our sending this to Recalc, oversights, inaccuracies, whatever? Yes.
I think some of the points, thank you so much for those of you who put this together. Excellent. I think some of the points though are givens when designing a new building, that there has to be ADA compliance, that there has to be, that accessibility has to be considered in the design of a new building. So I think the issues around inclusivity and accessibility and renovation, I think would be, and we haven't seen the designs. We saw a rendering that no one is not even close to being the final option.
Okay.
But it did give us some ideas and some things to discuss. So I do think some of these points are not as important as they initially seem, because we do have to meet, there does have to be ADA compliance, and the accessibility issues absolutely have to be determined before, moving forward. And so I do think some of the points are part of the process of seeing if this is in fact is the best solution for us. I'm wondering though, I think it's important for us to share our concerns. I'm just wondering, in sharing our concerns, what is our actual point in this?
They asked for our concerns. I think they're preparing for town meeting and they would like to know what to anticipate. So I think they're doing a lot of gathering, and Karen maybe has more insight into this than I do, but I think they want to know, and what are the questions, so to the best of their ability they can answer them. So that's part of it, and a lot of people have raised these issues.
As a town meeting member, those questions will definitely come up during town meeting as well.
Yeah.
I mean, every question will be anticipated and discussed, because this is a big decision.
It is.
I'm just wondering though, this is an opportunity that we didn't have even a month ago.
Mhm.
And it seems to me, when we think about what are the possibilities, we all agree we need a new senior center. We all agree. We know what the shortcomings are. So what is the best option for us moving forward? And I'll just take a step back and hear what other people have to say, because I might have more to contribute. I just wonder, I feel like there's 4 options. And, you know, three of them were presented at that meeting last week. Enlarging the Pleasant Street Center at an additional significant cost. A brand new building at an even greater cost, considering how will the town respond to that? And then the Walgreens Center, or even doing nothing. And I think we all agree that doing nothing is not an option that we want. So we have to think what is best for the community, what is best for the senior citizens, for our elderly, those of us who are over 60, and what is feasible economically, because we also have to think about the tax indications, which impact those of us who are elderly as well.
Thank you.
My concern is the fact that we grant, because it's still supposed to be the only choice.
I don't think it's the only choice.
I don't either.
But
I really don't. Several the things that are really wrong with it, I think are going to be hard to approve upon, which is the parking, which is the biggest problem.
Yeah.
There's no way you're going to keep the police out.
I like to think outside the box.
Yeah,
I
go
think
ahead.
there could be some creative solutions to that, to the parking issues. I think that's a second, that is a big concern, but I think we can be thinking outside the box in terms of how to handle the parking situation.
The other thing you have to consider is everybody that plays cards drives their own car to senior center to play. And the younger people that are going to all drive. It's not the older people that's going to take transportation. The younger people are all going to drive their own cars. So we're going to have more cars to park and less cars to park. And I think that's a problem.
I also think when we had the big discussion last time we met, that one of the things that came out was that we really wanted the town to hear what was important to us. And accessibility is important to us. And there's different levels of accessibility. There's minimum levels, mid-levels, and then really accessible levels. So this Council on Aging wants us to be on the higher end. We don't want another great room that people can't hear each other in there, that we don't want rooms divided and you can still hear people on the other side of the divider. One of the things the architect said when we talked about this was, he said, oh, those are very expensive. So we want to make sure that the town hears us, and that even though we might have more square footage at Walgreens, that we have the best possible place for the people that are going to take care, that are going to use the services. So I think some of these, I agree with you, some of these things are apparent and will be included, but we want the town to understand that it's really important that there are some things that can't be scrimped on, and that the square footage in Walgreens, is it an appropriate square footage? We don't know, because we don't really have the figures in front of us. We don't have the numbers in front of us, and we don't have experts in front of us that are going to say, okay, senior center should have XYZ, ABC, and EFG. And in order for that space to hold what's projected, or what is currently used in Reading, it needs to be this square footage. I think we wanted the town to understand, you can't just pull the square footage out of your head. It has to be based on something. And we don't think it should be based on the square footage that's available at Walgreens. yes, it is available, that's great. And if it meets the standards, well, then maybe we should buy it. But do we want to buy it? And then what if it doesn't meet the standards? It isn't going to give us what we need.
Alon,
So, anybody
Jackie,
else?
you had your hand up.
So I think the accessibility part is actually really important.
Yeah.
Because there's a difference between ADA compliant and accessible. So if you go into any restaurant and look at a handicap bathroom, they're all ADA compliant, but they're all different. And that doesn't mean that they're accessible. So a toilet that's really high isn't always accessible to somebody in a wheelchair, but it's ADA compliant. So it's very important to have that distinction between accessibility and compliant.
I got exactly that, for just a second, Michelle, I got exactly that feedback when I did my site visit in North Andover. I said, one of our questions was, what do you wish you had done differently? And the first thing came up was the height of the toilet seats, getting it from everybody. So
Because a lot of times the ADA compliance, they're gonna go with
Yep, and some,
whatever they can scrimp by on.
right, and we just, I think, are looking for the confidence that someone who's aware of these issues is advising us and that it's factored into the cost. And Michelle, what would you like to add?
Yes, let me introduce myself. My name is Michelle Popper, and I've had the pleasure of meeting both Marilyn and Nancy prior to this meeting, so just to share. And I'm someone who has worked the last 17 years in disability and was an ADA officer and also worked in the diversity, inclusion, and belonging space. If you read the ADA design standards, what it says in the very beginning, these are the minimal requirements. And so the ADA has to be reviewed as if this is building a foundation. It does not mean it's accessible. An automatic door opener does not work for everyone. So we really need to be looking at what do those spaces look like. And I would say that as someone who has worked a lot in facilities, where I worked in, we had 600 buildings, is that a lot of bathrooms, they'll say they meet the standards, they do not meet the standards, even if I take out a tape measure. So what an architect might say is accessible is their understanding. And I would say, we're talking about bathrooms, and I shared this with both Marilyn and Nancy, is maybe you don't want to put the accessible stall in a gender-specific restroom, because then it allows, I come with my elder husband who needs assistance. I have a separate accessible bathroom where it can be non-gender specific and I don't have to ask other people to leave. So that is what ADA just says, have an accessible bathroom. These are the standards. Most of them are not done to standards. And number two, it does not allow for someone to really be accessible if they need assistance in the bathroom. So that's the difference between minimal standards and inclusivity, just as a small individual.
But that would apply to any buildings, right?
Correct,
Not, okay, any, and so,
correct.
and that's something we want to ensure. I know I used to have to, with my elderly dad, we found the accessible non-gender bathroom at any airport we went to because he needed my help.
And that's, see, those are things that need to be considered, so.
And that, we would absolutely communicate that if they were listening to us. But that is true for any place that we decide.
Well,
But I think what
But-
we're looking for is an expert to guide us, because you're aware and you're aware, but, and I learned some up at North Andover, but I don't know that the town is aware of the levels of what we could do and is going to work to get the best one so it truly is accessible, and factor that into the cost and the space, because some of this could use the space differently. Yes, Michelle.
I just want to make another comment because this is something that is of very high value to me and I feel passionate about. I have worked with the executive director of the Institute of Human-Centered Design here, and she's world renowned for her work. And it also houses the New England ADA Center. And I would be glad to, and we could talk however your process is, I'm not familiar, about maybe having someone who is of Valerie's knowledge base just to come and speak about what is the difference between accessible versus inclusivity and being forward thinking. I also asked her, is there a senior citizen center that her group or she knew that would be a model for Reading to look at? And the only one, she said, not really. I'm gonna tell you, that's what she said. But one of the places that she told me she had been to was the Jenks Center in Winchester. And she felt that that one had some really good features to look at.
Thank you, Michelle.
Sure, but I don't know the details.
Is that the Winchester?
That's what
They
she
got
was-
terrible access to the basement though. I mean,
Is it public space?
oh yeah,
What did you say, John?
I think basement at Winchester is tough.
Oh, really?
They have I've been there to work, John.
It's tough for Joan, and that's what matters.
They have no, that's not true. They have an elevator and they have stairs. But if the elevator's down, which has been down several times, you're stuck.
Well, that well would be true if the elevator's down, yes.
Yes.
But that would be true in any building, any time, any place.
Right.
And can I also make a comment what the ADA says about that? Should there, it doesn't say that it's necessarily a building problem, it's a programming problem. And the programming needs to be moved so that it is accessible. And that's what the ADA would say. So just to kind of know that because there are things that do happen. And that's what the ADA would advise from a compliance perspective.
You know, just back on what Joan was saying, the Jenks Center is very different. It's the only center in the entire Commonwealth that's not owned by the town.
Yeah.
So they play under a few different rules.
But going back to the inclusivity and recommending that an expert be engaged, I don't think we can do it soon enough, frankly, because the town has a lot of education it needs to be exposed to. I do think it will affect even basic drawings. And right now, if you look at that dining room, I forget how many seats you see, but the reality is if you look at tables that only had 2 chairs so the wheelchairs pull right up and things like that. And if you put the little divots in the hallway so a wheelchair, it'll be slightly different. Maybe some of these things will be a lot different with the poles because that restricts us too. I just would, it's
We
really.
might have like one less room,
We
one
might.
less game
We
room
might.
by the time you reconfigure and put in all the other things that are needed.
Yeah, we just don't know. So I can't see the harm in getting expert advice sooner than later. And they may say, you got it. These are great drawings. This is very reasonable. It might be 2% off, but what the hey, that we're lucky. You know, they might, or they might say, you know, there's some significant factors and decisions you'll make that could affect this. And the sooner we have some advice on that, I think the better is all I'm saying. I'm not saying it's wrong right now. There should be some tables with only 2 chairs and there should be a divot in the hallway at least, if not double wheelchair widths. But those are things we need to really carefully consider when we form our impressions of what the building is capable of giving us, which is the stage we're at, I think. And my concern with this all is we all have this 30% number in our head for by end of decade. How many people is that really? And what does that mean for the senior center? And what is the life of the senior center? And, you know, if it were built there, are we thinking it will last 20 years? We've been, what, 30 years now at the firehouse? Is it going to be able to handle the population, or 10 years from now, are we going to be right back to town meeting saying, guess what, we grew?
30%?
Pardon me?
Are we already at 30%?
No, we're at about 27, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, 26, I think, actually, but right in that area.
All right.
It's not quite 30.
Right. And we're going to keep growing past the end of the decade. That's not the end of the story. If you just look at the baby boom demographics, we're coming. And I just would like to be confident that the math was done to know that there, even then, will still be space. Or to be, I mean, I used to be on a condo board, and you made an investment, you knew it was the life of X many years. If it's a new roof, you knew 20 years from now, we're going to do this again, folks. And I would like to have that perspective. The other thing that concerns me is I understand the practicality of expense. If we can't pay for it, we're not going to get it. It's pretty basic. But I would like to see these options teased out in terms of what are the benefits to this population at this spot versus this one versus this one. And I don't hear much, if any, discussion about the people. And what are we really going to be able to offer at this site versus that site versus another one? And I would like to see that driving this. I would like that to be based, and I think that would come out of, hopefully, the UMass work to a great degree. I think that was a lot of that. What that was about is, what are you looking for? So we could say, well, what would we have to do to meet that need? And can we? Is it practical? Is it affordable? I would like to see the needs of the elderly and the desire really driving this, rather than some, oh, it's bigger, so that would be better. And probably no one's going to argue with that, because we know we don't have enough space. But will this be enough space in 5 years? And will it allow us to do the things that survey is going to end up telling us were really important to them? So in my mind, anyway, and this is my opinion, not the council, it's really about understanding what we would accomplish and what the trade-offs are. And then, if we can't afford it, maybe we go the route of, and Mark had talked about this quite a few times, maybe we start doing small investments of, okay, rent some space somewhere where we could contract to do pickleball or whatever they might want, and keep the current senior center, but start having isolated other spots. And they might even be more convenient for all the people who can't drive. Who knows? I mean, I think there are other options. I would love to see a beautiful new one. I keep showing the picture on my camera of North Andover's building going up. It's lovely. They only have 6,000 people. We have 7,000 right now.
What about anybody on Zoom want to join in on this discussion?
I have a couple of thoughts.
Okay.
My first thought is, I think we should not keep saying senior center and expand it to like a community meeting center, and take away from that category, enlarge our category. Secondly, I think that the select board has the thought of going into Walgreens and using the parking spaces at the Pleasant Street Center. Now, we presently have a sight impaired group that meets. We have people who come with walkers. Are they going to be parking at the Pleasant Street Center and walking to Walgreens with rain, sleet, snow, ice, New England weather? And the cleaning of our center is not, the present center has not been good. The past year, I had people helping me over snowbanks. I was taking little teeny steps on ice. So thinking about possibly using parking spaces at Pleasant Street, and while we get ourselves involved with Walgreens, to me is not going to work. I don't like Walgreens right from the start when they say 6 parking spaces. I don't care how they squeeze and reconfigure the land around, they're taking it away from other people and other merchants. We only have 6 parking spaces that come with that property. And that's even before you open a door and go inside, which I see a lot of problems inside. Now, there was one little sentence at the Lunch and Learn meeting about having the ground level as parking and building a space up. When you went into that building, you know that the ceilings are very, very high. So you probably could put a floor in there and open up the space on the street level for parking. I have no idea what that would cost. Are you talking about steel beams that have to come in so you can create another floor? I have no idea. But that was a quick little thought that was put out there. I don't know if anybody else caught it or not. So my thought is we need a new location. We have to build it green. We have to put solar panels. It has to be an all green model building for our community, our state, and our nation.
Thank you.
You're
One other thought I had about the parking, and I understand there's lots of thought going on about parking, but my guess, I mean, I've even heard mention of, well, maybe we've got a bus system or something, and
Yeah.
I would think to have an apples to apples comparison on these prices for places that might have a big parking lot and no parking issue is what might the cost of those buses or whatever be, and it ought to be factored into the true cost of choosing a Walgreens site. They're not separate. If the only way that site can be really successful is something like a trolley or whatever it might be, that cost is really part of the Walgreens plan. And I think it would be wise to see some hard numbers on that, or even some hard descriptions. I mean, the last answer I got was, we've known about that for 10 years. I was like, well, that just tells me that in 10 years we haven't done anything. What makes me think they're going to do something 10?
Right.
I think we need something concrete if that's seen as something.
A trolley or a bus line up and down Route 28 is not going to work for all people. It would work for me because I can get up and walk someplace. What about the people who can't walk, who have walkers, who are either hearing or sight impaired? That isn't going to work either, unless you're going to have a couple of vans and people are picked up at their house, which some people should be picked up now. Reading should be divided maybe in half, and we have 2 vans. One van cover the north side and pick up people there, and the second van pick up the people on the south side. That's just a thought off my top of my head. So, anybody else?
Yes.
Thank you, Madam
Sally,
Chair.
what about you, Sally? How do you feel about everything?
Hang on,
Karen has some. We'll come back to Sally.
This has been super helpful. I'm actually thinking that first thought is getting back to the letters, that I don't know when your next meeting is, but I know everybody in the room here wasn't at the lunch and learn this week. And every time the presentation is given, you get more feedback and stuff, and then take that and start working into it. I'm hearing a lot of great things tonight, and thank you for educating me on the accessibility. I'm hearing you, and what I'm hearing then is very early in the process, in the design feasibility study, somebody with a good understanding of senior-friendly, ADA compliant features. My personal opinion is that if we can't design something that meets so many more of our needs than we're meeting today, then we shouldn't be spending any money on that. So, but I feel like this is it's too early at this point, but maybe that is feedback that you could work in your accessibility paragraph.
What would you say?
A couple of examples of the inclusive bathroom, like making sure early in the process. I didn't know at first if you were asking if more of the council on aging could be involved, but I think what you're really asking for is a design expert.
We want to design.
Build out.
We want to design.
Yeah.
I'm not speaking for the council at this point yet, but what we had in mind when we drafted it was that.
So maybe my thought with this letter is maybe the accessibility could go just, we don't mean just like, fulfills the letter of the law. We mean and give some concrete examples. So, we would want to make sure you would just make sure that kind of talent was on the team as you took it to the level.
Yeah.
And the only other thing that is a little bit of a disconnect from that presentation that you haven't seen yet is the transportation, which got me excited. So I'm a big fan of increasing transportation services and from a holistic perspective. I look in the plans and trees now, and you have to reserve the van like 2 days before, and no one's going to do that. I'm not going to do that. No one's going to do that. So I've known that for a while, and our planning folks have been saying, we're trying to reserve parking for businesses. We want to have parking for employees away from the center and have a van bringing them around. So again, it's kind of like a to be defined option, but it isn't one of the slides in that presentation. It's right in the middle. It says transportation. So that has to be something we do. And you're right. We have to kind of understand what it would look like and what it would cost.
and getting to all of this. But I don't know if you want to incorporate anything about transportation in here, like transportation that would work for the users of a new senior center, because I think no matter what option, any of those four options, doing nothing, transportation still has to be on. And that's, as our town grows and gets more dense downtown, we're gonna have to do that for a number of reasons. Accessibility, inclusivity issues, parking issues. So just those two things, but I'm really enjoying listening to this. Thank you.
Thank you, and we're glad to have you here tonight. Thank you. Any more thoughts? Oh, Sally, we were calling on Sally for Sally's thoughts. Different thoughts on this, Sally?
Are you asking me to speak?
Yes, if you have something to say.
No, I don't want to speak at this time, but I think you know that I've always been concerned about the parking at Walgreens. I'm also concerned about another issue that hasn't been mentioned before, and that is the price tag on that building. And I firmly believe that that price tag is for a tenant who is going to generate income, not for the town's use as a meeting place. And so they're overpriced the cost of the building. So I'm not interested in paying that kind of money.
Thank you, Sally. Yes.
I'm really appreciating this conversation, and I really appreciate your input as well.
Could you speak up just a little, please?
Sure. I appreciate everything that's happening. I think back to a month ago when we met, we didn't even know that this was a possibility. And we knew that there was a possibility that we could rent it at an exorbitant amount.
That's right. We didn't know the sale.
And so there's so much that has happened now with the possibility of us being able to purchase. And I think that has made us more urgent. But I hear all of these concerns, and I think that that's something we absolutely want to share. But I think we also want to keep open the possibility that this may, and so you talked about the best option. You talked about keeping Pleasant Street and then doing like satellite things. That to me is like last resort.
I agree.
So is there something in between? So I would like to keep this possibility of exploring this further and making it, seeing if it will work. And I'm not sure that this letter communicates that. Do you think is that?
Sure. One of the reasons that the letter is geared to the former Walgreens is because that's what was being pushed before we wrote the letter. And as a group at that meeting, there was a concern that you could buy that bill. Everybody agreed we should keep our mind open and look at possibilities. But one side was saying, if we don't buy it by November, we're going to lose it. And the other side was saying, well, wait a minute. Let's make sure it works and it fits. Let's make sure there's adequate parking. Let's make sure we can make it inclusive. So time was of the essence. But what was in that lunch and learn was the three options resurfaced again. So I think my own personal feeling, I think if there's not any pressure to buy this Walgreens by, December 31st or whatever it is, or, whatever the timeline is, and we're able to factor out all of these criteria that we've set up, then I would be okay with it. But my concern is we buy a building, basically sight unseen. We've got some layouts that are not really done with any kind of expert involvement. We don't have the UMass report back, so we don't have that. We budgeted money for a feasibility study, and it seems that the feasibility study for a while was being, oh, we don't need a feasibility study. We can do it ourselves. Personally, I couldn't do it myself. And I question whether if you're not an expert in that area, then can you really determine what this, and it gets down to that drawing where we had labels on each room and we had square footage. I didn't trust that drawing. So my concern would be we, rush in, buy Walgreens, and then discover, geez, this isn't going to work, and we need to look at Simon's Way. So to me, what this letter is saying, before you rush in and do anything, do the research. Let's make sure that we've got good space, accessible space, inclusive space, space that's going to meet the population, space that's going to meet the current as well as the future population. And by doing all these things, I think that's going to help us do that. I think just going out and buying Walgreens at the end of November, I know that's fantastic. It's not going to happen, but just going ahead and making that decision as a taxpayer, that concerns me. Because we would be investing money in this building. And if it turned out that there was like maybe just a quarter more space by the time we finished all the renovations, was it worth it? And should we have gone with another avenue, building out the current center or going with Simon's Way? So to me, these things are important to consider before any site is chosen, including Walgreens. It's my 2 cents.
I'm gonna add my 2 cents and say, why don't you start the letter saying before we rush in? And who's rushing us? Who gave us the November deadline? Is that coming from Walgreens?
Rosemary, I was just throwing out a fantastical month. Don't quote me on that. Don't put that on the books.
We had a couple of people who had their hands up in the room.
Walgreens has been empty for what, 8 years? Nobody else wanted it.
Right.
For us to take it.
I'm gonna put my hand up too, but Nancy and Chris have had their hands up.
Nancy?
Me? Yeah. Thank you so much. So just overall, I'm hearing all of this, and I've been thinking deeply about this whole situation. And I think for me, the perspective that I take is we're here to serve the senior community. Right? That is what we're here to do. And that's why I'm here. And that's why all of us are here. The concern is that walking away from this opportunity is going to delay us being able to serve the senior community. So that's kind of how I'm thinking about it. My understanding is that even if we did move forward with the Walgreens, we are looking at 18 to 24 months before we have a serviceable facility for folks to be able to utilize. So I just wonder if, pursuing other options, I mean, financials aside, how long are we looking at before we can have a facility that can serve the community? I don't know, I'm asking the question, is 5 years, 6 years, 10 years?
If you want to build, you can do it same amount of time as Walgreens. If you want to build over at the ice skating rink.
We're taking a year just to clear that spot.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't.
I think.
Yeah, I didn't understand. Did you see in the lunch we're in the drawing for the center we now live in? I've never seen that before. The drawing for the way the changes at the Pleasant Street Center now.
I haven't seen them before either.
That was in the Lunch and Learn presentation.
I know, I got that picture.
Yeah.
I've never seen that drawing before.
No.
Yeah, I haven't heard any discussion of it.
No.
I mean, I don't know what your next meeting is, what your schedules look like, but if I were the chair, I'd be like, come and give us that presentation and stuff, specifically so we could.
I was just gonna say that, that's what I was just gonna say is, I don't know if we could host another full lunch and learn like we did, but it might not be a bad idea. I'm sure we could host it at the center, another version of our lunch and learn, so we can continue to keep everyone on the same page and an open line of communication. So I wanted to throw that out there, kind of follow it up with you as well, just so we're all on the same page. I know some people canceled on the list. We had a good turnout, but I know some people missed or had to cancel. And I'd be willing to, we could set up another, I don't know, learn. Maybe not lunch.
Maybe dinner and learn.
Yeah,
Those just work.
we could maybe do it at a different hour, and maybe try to get new folks in and get the information, take a look, just to keep that communication open. So it might not be a bad idea.
Who did the lunch and learn? Did you do the lunch and learn?
We did the lunch and learn part of ARPA.
Oh, you did, okay. I was wondering if the one that's select people on retail did
Yeah,
it.
Fidel and Mark Doxer presented.
Oh, okay.
There's a question I'd like to ask Karen, and this is, I'm just asking your personal opinion. You represent the select board. Do you think regardless of anything, if that building becomes available, the town would buy it?
What building?
The Walgreens.
Well, it is available. They responded to an RFP. They're like, yeah, we'll sell it. Yeah, we'll lease it. That's the official answer.
And do you think the town would take the opportunity to buy it under any circumstances?
I would agree with Nancy. I don't think that would be fiscally responsible, and I don't think it would serve the other Nancy serving our seniors. So I think we're all in this position of balancing a timeline that kind of got changed on us. We had a nice plan, and then life threw us a curveball, not the worst looking curveball, but now we're just trying to all keep up and try to make a good decision.
You don't think there's a chance that the town would buy it and then afterwards figure out what's the best use for it? Because the town's been selling so much property for years, it's about time we started buying some stuff back.
This is actually, this conversation and the lunch and learn, if you think about it, it's preparation leading up to town meeting. They've got to get all their facts. We haven't really talked about costs other than like, big, bigger and biggest, but town meeting is going to want to like more concrete numbers. So this feedback is helpful as getting that presentation where it needs to be and getting Fidel and staff where they need to be in terms of being able to really answer the questions. And so then town meeting can make a decision.
What makes you think they'll buy it, John? They never buy anything. They don't want to.
I think it's about time they did it. I think $5 million is not.
We got rid of it. Never mind buy.
Well, they never should have sold Pleasant,
No, they never should have done that. That's the second one.
the Pearl Street School. But at any rate, I think if the town can pick it up for $5 million, it's a good investment.
No, you'll never see them pay without something important. They'll never buy it.
Well, could be.
I thought we were only
It has to
talking
go to
about
the
buying
voters,
it.
by the way. It has to, no, ultimately it has to
Oh,
go to
yeah.
the voters. So town meeting could approve it, the select board could say, yeah, buy it. Town meeting says, yeah, buy it. And then it gets to the voters and the voters can all say no.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just remember that way.
I'd like to just, my first choice is that we find something that we can move into sooner rather than later, rather than trying to add Band-Aids to the Pleasant Street Center. But just as a what's possible, there was an article, Newton is tearing down their senior center and building all new. There was an article in the Globe a couple of weeks ago. It says, in early August, the Newton City Council approved the roughly $20 million project to replace
Hey.
All right.
Yes, Beverly.
My cat, sorry.
No problem. The project will replace the existing senior center, which is, where did it go? $20 million project, which, and we've been hearing numbers like 60 million. They're doing it for 20 somehow.
Isn't it a community center?
I
thought that was
It says senior center services. And we all know if you read it in the paper, does that make it true? Who knows? I'm just reading you what the Globe says, but I got excited about it. Pulled it out, didn't throw it in the recycle.
Herald, I believe it.
It will replace the 345 Walnut Street in Newtonville with a larger modern building. The project will replace the existing senior center, which is about 11,000 square feet, with a building that is roughly triple the size. The existing center building will be closed starting that Thursday, November 10th. Officials hope to open the new facility with a ribbon cutting in the summer of fall of 2024. So they're looking at a 2-year window to build, but granted, they're further along. They've made all their decisions. While the project is underway, the city will use the gym at the Hyde Community Center at 90 Lincoln Street for large-scale senior center events and programs. The city-owned Brigham House, located at 20 Hartford Street, wherever that is, in Newton Highlands, will be home to small and medium-sized senior center programs. Both facilities will start featuring senior programs beginning Monday, November 28th. The city will also use other facilities, including the Newton Free Library and spaces operated by the Parks, Recreation, and Culture Department for senior programming. And that's their description of it. But I just wanted to say it's possible. You know, a town that's put tons of thought and research into it, a huge feasibility study that's way outside of our budget into it, is doing things like this and not facing an uproar of this will neglect the seniors. So I just don't want us to be terrified of holding out a little longer if that means we could get a bigger, better place, because we've got time to really think it through. On the other hand, I'm very aware, you know, we could miss the opportunity. It's a gamble no matter what we do. And in particular, if we don't have all this research, we're gambling that the research is going to say what we hope it's going to say. So it's a hard decision. Yes.
So Nancy, you mentioned about Simon's Way.
Mhm.
My understanding is that we put out an RFP, and that wouldn't they have responded if anyone over at Simon's Way was interested?
So Simon's Way, we own Simon's Way.
Okay, you're talking about owning, you're not, okay.
Yeah.
All right, so you're thinking about building there.
Yes.
Yes.
People don't like it because it's out of the way. That's the biggest problem with Simon's Way.
Well, the Ice Arena, Burbank area is even further away, isn't it?
It is.
It's right
That's
there.
where it
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
Oh, that's
Arena.
Simon's Way, I'm so
Yeah.
sorry, I'm thinking, that's Simon's Way? Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's across from St. Athanasius Church. It's real close to the Rotary. It's right near REI. You know, you can stop and get some new hiking boots on your way home.
It's not, if you're going into the rink, you know, where the road goes to the right that takes you down to the shooting range, where the
okay.
police have their shooting range. If you go to the right, then they're talking about the property to the right of that road.
Right.
If you go to the left, you come to the rink. If you go beyond the rink, you come to the ball field down the end.
Yeah, I learned something new tonight.
No, I'm just trying to tell you exactly, where it is.
I'll let you learn. Option 3 has a map, and it shows you where they want to put it at, next to the skating rink. You have that.
I'm sorry, I've got the presentation, thank you.
Option 3 shows
So-
you where it is.
I guess the way I leave with this,
Cameron, give up.
Oh, yes, Karen. Oh, sorry.
Oh, I think circling back to the letter, I think that it's important that we at least state that we're not 100%, we're not ruling out Walgreens, but it has some concerns as they continue to march forward. And if they think that it's going to solve all of the problems, I think it's important that we raise that there are concerns related to the Walgreens property. Not that we wouldn't, if everything worked out, that it would be considered as one of the places that we would go to. But I think what we were asked to do was to address recalc and let them know what our concerns were. And I think the letter does that. And I don't think that we want to miss an opportunity to let them know our concerns and have them think that, we're all on board and we think it's a great place and it solves all the needs, which clearly it doesn't in the current state that, the things that we've seen. So I think that circling back to the letter, I think it's important that that letter and our position on certain things certainly gets pushed forward. Not that we would rule Walgreens out completely with enough studies and the feasibility and inclusivity and all of that. If that were taken into account, we would certainly welcome a new place if that met the needs that we're requiring. That's my 2 cents.
Thank you. Did you want to say something more?
I agree with that. I mean, I
Okay.
think that we want to communicate our issues and our concerns because they're very valid, but we don't want to rule out the possibility of this opportunity.
I think we also should perhaps add a sentence that says, we aren't in a position to offer you square footage requirements, which is what they were looking for on that list that they've got. And we're gonna ask them to change the column heading on the one that's currently says COA to estimates based on Newton's study so that people don't misunderstand.
Did they give us a specific charge from Recalc for this meeting?
Well, this meeting's just our regular meeting.
Right.
But they did, when we talked about, they call it the list. It's got space it's got 3 columns of space requirements on it by activity types and things like that. And one got labeled COA something because there was misunderstanding that this was just something that Nancy shared because we were trying to be helpful to that subgroup, and it was Newton basically. And there were things that were some feedback directly. And so we said, that's not the COA official opinion. And they said, when can we have your opinion? And that led to this. And I think the expectation is probably that we're going to come back with square footage, and we're not qualified to do that or ready to do it, even if we were qualified to do it. And I think we perhaps should add a sentence that says that, but so there's no misunderstanding. It's not that we haven't finished that yet. We're not on the council's plate right now.
That's not our expertise.
Right.
You know, we can look at the big picture, we can
Right.
offer suggestions, we can offer the vision.
Right.
We can say they definitely need to consider 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Mhm.
But, you know, do we know exactly, you know, do we need 2 pool tables, 1 pool table? Do we need the room as big as this? You know, that's not our thing. We don't know how to do that. And
which gets back to our recommendations. We
Yeah.
need to bring some experts in to help, and we need to finish the research.
And it shouldn't just be, you know, Nancy, the citizen, making decisions for the Pleasant Street Center and citizens about how much space you need for a game room. Karen?
Yes.
One more thought.
I'm so startled when you call me Madam Chair. I'm just Marilyn.
So one more thought, we get to town meeting and we're going to have a presentation that's on the warrant article. We're gonna want to know what the Council on Aging thinks about this. So that's kind of what do you think you need to do, and what kind of, even if it's a caveated recommendation, that further investigation be done. But you might think about what kind of support or response or answer you might be ready to give, what you would need.
What's the date of the town meeting?
November, well, it starts on November 14th, it could run for 4 nights.
Okay, so we've got another meeting before then.
But what about the recommendations that are in this letter?
Yep.
The recommendations that are in this letter, kind of supported by the longer paragraphs. Does that do it, Karen? Sorry.
Well, so you have 2 town meeting members here. So the whole committee could come to town meeting that night, or you could just designate, for example, you could literally designate someone to speak to address the body and say.
Actually.
"Here's the steps we took and here's what
Oh,
we did."
she's pointing at me
I
again.
know. Actually, Marilyn did at the last one.
Chair, you can
Yeah.
delegate.
Yeah.
Me up till midnight. They had to wake me up. You can talk now. Like,
We could potentially take it early in the evening too. You know, the town manager could ask the moderator if we could take it out of order.
Yeah.
Things like that. It doesn't have to be done at 10:45.
okay, no, I was glad and privileged to speak the last time,
Mhm.
but also 3/4 asleep.
Karen, is what's on the article the actual purchase of Walgreens? Is that how it's written?
There isn't I believe we approved it without a price at this point.
And was there a deadline by which it is, does it say in the article?
No, it says, but town meeting needs to authorize, typically would authorize, you know, up to X dollars for the purpose of acquiring real estate for the purpose of a new senior center. It's, so there isn't one for leasing. Like if we decided to do leasing, we would need to figure out how to pay for it, but we don't need to go to town meeting to do that. But if we're gonna acquire real estate, it needs to be on the warrant article.
So if another piece of property came up, wouldn't have to be Walgreens, it could be another property that might become available. I mean, to me, and I don't know how people feel, but to me, this letter has 3 recommendations and it's supported by, I don't know, 4 or 5 paragraphs that are the concerns. And in this letter, we're saying, you know, if you don't buy Walgreens until.
Welcome to Verizon Wireless. The wireless customer you called is not available at this time. Please try your call again later. Announcement 1, switch to 8-3.
Whose phone is that?
It could be someone trying to call in.
Welcome to Verizon Wireless. The wireless customer you called is not available at this time. Please try your call again later. Announcement 1, switch to 8-3.
Maybe our Zoom time is up or something. Wouldn't think so.
I have a comment.
Yes.
I agree with John 100%. The town should buy back property. Who is setting a $5 million price tag on this building that's been empty for 8 years and needs massive renovation? Anytime somebody wants to buy a property, you have offers and you go back and forth. I have no idea what the bottom line would be for that building, but think of the possibilities if the town owned the building and we expanded into the municipal area there and build a huge parking garage, the type that the cars can go up a ramp and around. And we leave the front of the building open for rentals, can rent it for businesses, whatever type of business wants to be in there, maybe a large restaurant too. And we would just spiral up for parking. What do you think about that idea? And then the other thing is you're talking about a second lunch and learn. The first lunch and learn was not videotaped and the reporter from the Chronicle was not there. So the wider population didn't have exposure to any of that, the concerns that were raised at that time, which I think was a shame.
Actually, tonight's meeting's gotten, because doesn't look like RCTV came.
Yeah, they were on.
They were?
I did see it.
Okay, great. Okay, great.
Before people leave though, can we do something with this? I make a motion that we approve this letter and submit it to recalc with our recommendations. Then if we want to further revise it, we can do it at another meeting. But at least we're on record as saying, here's our concerns. Maybe it's not the best letter, but if we keep waiting, the clock is ticking. So anyways, I make a motion that we accept this letter and submit it to the recalc. Is that?
I second.
Who second?
Who said?
Okay.
Karen, Panett.
Discussion? Yes.
Can I just request that we add a caveat along the lines of if, you know, these are our concerns and if they are addressed, you know, we welcome the possibility that this opportunity, we welcome the opportunity that this is providing us in offering the best, well, not even the best, you know, something along the lines of, you know, we just see this. It could really an effective solution.
It could be.
And I don't want us to lose that option. And I'm just concerned that with the tone of it, I just want to make sure that we end with something along the lines of, you know, if our concerns are addressed, we, you know, really look forward to pursuing this opportunity.
I think that
do I have to revise my motion?
I think we have to amend the motion to include this.
It's the letter though. It's okay.
No.
If the letter were to be changed, then we'd have to see that at some point and have another meeting to vote on it.
Well, remember, we change it just as it was.
As
amendment
as if we like that language, before we leave tonight, you'll write it down, and we're gonna add it to the bottom of the letter.
Or the top of the letter.
But we
Or
need
the
to hear it
top
before we
front.
vote.
Why? Oh, yeah, so say it again. Not to be bossy or anything.
Oh, my goodness. Help me out. So that we,
We aren't ruling it out. We want to communicate
that
our concerns.
we're sharing our concerns, but
Someone writing?
Yeah.
let me think. Okay, I should have this thought out. We appreciate your hearing our concerns.
Joan?
Joan, wait, just wait 1 second.
Can you wait?
You know what? You know what
We
we've
need- we
done
need our
before,
quorum.
John? We've passed a motion with the caveat.
Didn't pass it. We had a
No.
motion in a second.
Yeah, no, but before what we've done, and I can't remember what the letter was, but it was agreed that people would approve the letter with the additional language and we didn't have to meet again.
And we do it with the
But
minutes.
but I think we
minutes all the
we
time.
knew what the additional language was gonna be.
Yeah,
That's
you
what we're
just
getting
heard
right
it.
now.
We,
We're writing
You
it down
just heard
right
it.
yeah, I
now.
know, well,
Jenna just said something too.
Yes,
You
What?
can empower the chair to make that edit for you, or empower that particular language.
I empower John to make that,
Yeah, and he's part of Recalc, so.
yeah.
well,
And Recalc actually
since I'm
had
part
a similar motion.
since I'm the later on a recalc and I feel a little conflicted, so I'm probably gonna abstain no matter what this
All
is.
right.
I'm not gonna vote against it, but I'm probably gonna abstain. But I don't think that affects,
I empower, which one of you would like to do it?
We're going to do it together.
Okay.
All right. The pair, I empower the pair to do it. And so do we have, we need a new motion.
I can't make them, I don't know what it is now.
I make a motion to approve the letter to send.
Oh, you can't make a motion.
Why?
In the chair.
I can't make motions? I thought I could do it. Oh, well.
Okay.
So are you rescinding your motion?
No, she's.
Or amending?
I'm amending
Amending
it.
it.
I make a motion that we amend the letter with the additional language
That you two are empowered to.
that we are empowered to add to it and send it to Recalc. Is that it?
Yes, we need a second.
Second,
All right. Any further discussion? Okay, roll call.
Is there gonna be a carbon copy sent to the select board? Or is it just going to Recal?
Recalc asked for it, so but we could CC the select board, but it's really not part of this discussion. Let's just send it to Recalc
For now.
for now. Let's,
and the select board has a liaison on recalc, so,
Right.
select board would,
Yeah.
the chairman of the select board would see it.
okay,
All right.
take a vote.
Take a vote. Joan Coco,
Yes,
thank you.
can I go now?
Yeah.
Yes. Karen Panett,
yes.
thank you. Marilyn Shapley, yes. Nancy Zimlack,
Yes.
John Parsons.
I abstain.
Abstain, okay. Sally Hoyt,
Yes,
thank you. And those are our full members. Do we have a 6? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, because you count, you just abstain. Do we need a 6-1 who's not abstaining?
I don't know.
I don't know either, this has never happened.
You know, Karen?
What was the question?
One of our 6 quorum members here has abstained from this vote. Does that mean we need to appoint an associate to vote on this in his absence, or
You have a quorum, right?
including John, but he abstained?
I don't think the entire,
Yeah.
why do you have to abstain? You definitely have to abstain?
I don't think I definitely have to. I just feel more comfortable doing that. All right, I'll change my vote to approve.
All right,
Thank you.
yay.
All right, in that case, we have unanimous quorum voting in favor of it.
But put that in the minutes, please, Nancy, the whole thing, how it played out.
Okay.
Good idea.
Oh, I will.
All right.
I will.
When is your next meeting with recount?
A couple of weeks.
We did a lot of good work tonight.
Yeah.
think
Oh,
that-
do we need a motion to adjourn?
We did,
Are we
Motion
done?
to
that's
adjourn.
his job.
I second. All in favor?
Oh, I'm gonna
Aye.
take, wait, I'm gonna
No,
do
I
the
don't
vote
think we
again.
need the roll for
I'm
motion.
required to do the vote again, otherwise we have to stay here until next month. Um, Joan left. So we're gonna run into this issue again, just to adjourn. Karen Panett,
Yes.
Marilyn Shapley, yes. Nancy Zimlack,
Yes.
John Parsons.
Yes.
Sally Hoyt.
Yes.
And then we need to appoint someone to, an associate to be, because Joan left.
I'll do it.
Thank you, Jackie.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. All right, we are adjourned at 8:26. Thank you very much. It was a really productive conversation, I think, and
I do
it
too.
will continue. We've got a lot of work still to do, but great minds are working together.
I'm not positive, but I thought on the town website,
Yeah.
it shows